5-Minute Leadership Podcast is all about solving the leadership shortage. Now, leadership shortages are oftentimes the result of growth outpacing leadership development. But one of the reasons that happens is that perfection is the enemy of leadership development. And what I mean by that is sometimes as leaders we forget that we were far from perfect when we became leaders, but yet as things go throughout time and as things grow, we somehow get these standards of leadership that are close to perfection. Now, I'm all about character and integrity and all that, but sometimes we forget how God processed us as leaders. I was reading about the story about Jacob the last few days in the book of Genesis. And I think about Jacob and how God called him and God picked him and God used him, but yet, wow, he had some issues. He's not the kind of person we would typically pick as a leader. He's chased out of the promised land by his brother Esau, who has vowed to kill him because of how Jacob has treated him and taken so much from him. He gets out of the promised land and he finds a wife, but he's tricked into a lot of work and labor by a father-in-law who's sort of just like him. Now he's running from the father-in-law. He's running from mistakes and broken relationships. He's got his brother chasing him from one side, his father-in-law from the other side. He doesn't know what to do. There's also the possibility that his dad is mad at him for deceiving him with the goat skin on the arm and the whole thing to get the blessing. What happens is he has an encounter with God. He wrestles with God, the scripture says. And after this wrestling match with God, he gets a new name, Israel. Now, it's interesting that this was the third name that Jacob had. The first name, of course, was Jacob. That's what his parents called him. And Jacob means deceiver. Not a good name for parents to give him, but he lived up to it. And then later on, when he was tricking his dad said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I am Esau." So his parents called him Jacob. Jacob called himself Esau, but the angel of the Lord called him Israel. When you're looking for leaders, it doesn't matter who their parents say they are. All of the things that they were raised with, where they went to school, socioeconomic background, ethnicity, all the things we get from our parents, that's not what's important when you're looking for possible leaders. It's also not important what we often pretend to be or what that person pretends to be. His parents said, this is Jacob. Jacob said, no. He was pretending to be Esau. So what your parents say you are doesn't matter. What you pretend to be doesn't matter. All that matters is who God says you are. And when you're looking for potential leaders, when you're trying to solve a leadership shortage, all that matters is who God says that person is, no matter how messed up they might be. Besides a new name, or I should say along with a new name, Jacob also left that encounter with God with a limp. It was obvious he was walking in a completely different way. A few years ago, I had a ski injury in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I was skiing with my sons and I made the mistake of racing on the last run of the day. We decided to race down the mountain and there was some ice on the mountain. I hit an icy spot. I crashed. I messed up my knee and the muscles surrounding and my calf. And when you have that encounter with God, same way I had that encounter with the icy mountain, it's obvious that we walk in a different way. It's obvious to everyone. And that's what happened to Jacob. It became obvious. So look, when you're looking for leaders, when you're trying to solve a leadership shortage, yes, we can get caught up in the person's faults and the problems and their lacks and their gaps. But I pray that we could have the eyes of God and see what God has designed and called people to be. And it's amazing what He can do with them. Paul said it this way in 1 Corinthians 26 through 29. Consider your calling, because not many of you were wise according to worldly standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. God chose what is low and despised in the world, even the things that are not, to bring to nothing the things that are, so that no human might boast in the presence of God. You can never be too small, too weak, too messed up for God to use you, but you can be too big and too smart and too together. Let's let the process of God work its way out and the leaders that we're looking to. If we'll get rid of the perfection, I think we'll have a good step towards solving our leadership shortages.